is author Maria Distrada here with author Daniel Brooks, and we have just a short show. He's doing me a huge favor because we're testing how to bring friends on, and we're launching, or I'm launching Wolf Trek 2.0. The original novel I didn't do so hot, but I've had it professionally edited. I have a great cover, but more importantly, the profits of that publication are going to go to Jay Mehta, who is a mutual friend of ours and just a jewel of a poet. So I thought we could do a little bit of poetry today, then talk about how to be each other's support network, or really how to take care of ourselves. Because as writers, I think we I don't know, we feel a lot, and sometimes depending on the kind of writer you are, you get so invested in your work that you don't take care of yourself. So I experienced that recently, and I think it'd be healthy to talk about it from the lens of people of color. You know. So can you close the door there, little man? My son, we're in a hotel. We're actually on a writing vacay. It was more like a rest vacay for my husband. And hopefully you can't hear that. Can you hear that background noise? A
Mm-hmm.
little bit. Oh, thank
I
God.
can't do anything.
Yes, he did not close the bathroom door. Let's just say that. But I'm also excited to do a soft launch and testing for my upcoming YouTube channel called Jesus Books and Politics. So, a lot of people say you shouldn't mix politics and writing, but I call bullshit on that. If you can't be political in your work, within reason, obviously, right? You don't want to proselytize. Then what's the point, So people know, no. So Daniel also has radical leanings, and I think it's important that we be true to that, right? I
Yeah,
mean, if you. So anyway, dude, could you please close the door, bro? God. Antonio, who has no video ethic. Let me see if that's no, God, no. He also is going to launch his YouTube channel because he's been asking for one for a long time, and I was like, nope, no, 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 no YouTube channel for you. And he's now 9, but he's doing a YouTube channel called Antonio the Human, and he's going to be focusing on things that he enjoys doing. So in both of our shows, we want to do, it's not about being YouTube famous. It's about doing what you enjoy and not focusing so much on metrics and money. Because I work full time, I make my living. You know what I mean?
hmm
But so I thought books and politics would be fantastic, and then I could do things like this, have amazing guests like you on, and book reviews and short readings and maybe virtual book parties. But not just to make it about me, me, me. I don't make it about me, me, me anyway. But that's how we go. So, do you want to talk about self care first, or part of that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, self-care is something that's really important, not only for writers but for everyone, right? You hear a lot about work-life balance and things of that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really all about prioritizing where your mind is and really scanning your body and scanning how you feel in
Well, and I
moments.
think we had spoken about how, as people of color, getting counseling or psychiatric treatment, yo, seriously, dude. All right, just let it go. We're gonna have mishaps and Antonio being rude. Do you want to say hi to our stream, bro? I know you can hear me. He's not in a good mood. He was up with his little friends last night. He made friends, as happens sometimes in hotels, and they were over here playing games. They were pretty badass. What? You're not feeling well? Your stomach? Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, he needs to lay down. Good thing there's a couch there. Speaking of self care, I'll get you some Pepto in a bit. Um, yeah, as people of color, especially in the Latino community, I don't know what it was like for you growing up as an African American man or a black man. Hey, what do you like to be called? I like to be called Chicana.
Black is fine.
Black. Yeah, I think.
hmm
Um, so I think growing up, if you even mentioned that you were getting any kind of counseling, then you were a loca, you were crazy,
hmm
and the concept of craziness is stigmatized, and so we never talked about, okay, so I've been experiencing depression. We didn't talk about any of that. And I think we also carry a lot of historical trauma. I think African American scholars have been better about like studying that, but we don't talk about it in the Chicano community as much, or at least I don't come across these ideas. It's there, right? Like, we experienced lynchings too. We were ostracized. I mean, even now, dude, we have concentration camps on the border. You
Right,
think that doesn't impact people psychologically? That shit is depressing.
right.
And so I think it's important that we have a holistic understanding of who we are as human beings, And if we need to get care, not to stigmatize it, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that took a long time. So
there's
go ahead.
there's a similar stigma, in the Black community as well, and obviously I won't speak for the entire Black community because some of us deal with it differently than others, but
Absolutely.
certainly being raised, there was a stigma, going to counseling wasn't even something that was even like brought up or really
Right.
suggested. If you were a child, maybe dealing with some type of mental illness or some anxiety, certainly a child can't be depressed. You don't pay bills, you don't do this, you don't do that. How can a
Right.
child, be depressed or anxious? And certainly as a man, as a Black man, who's generally associated with toughness and aggression and all of that.
All right.
Certainly a Black man can't be, anxious or, so there's certainly a stigma. And just like you said about generational trauma, I mean, that adds on to the mental health of Black people, of brown people, of oppressed communities. That adds on. So it's something that we definitely should prioritize across the board.
So I think I had talked to somebody about whether you can undo that damage. I think you can, you
Right.
know, but that also takes thought process. We met this amazing family from St. Louis,
Mm-hmm.
and this mom, talk about trauma. She has her son, and she brought two of his little friends to hang out, and that's who my son befriended. And it's just a good little group of boys, but one of them is being abused by his father, which is totally unfucking acceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I told her, I said, Mary, call CPS because he had the strangulation marks on his neck, like that. It's fucked up. And part of that is again that machista male aggression.
Right.
Like, why can't men just fucking talk it out? Why do they have to resort to like the belt or the chancla,
Right.
instead of talking to their kids? And I think part of that.
Man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I grew up with the belt, my
Me
that's
too. Me too.
what my father did to me. So, and it was listen to me or else,
Exactly. And the funny thing is, like, I call them out on it sometimes. Like, I wasn't hit a lot, not compared to some kids, even kids today, not compared to my neighbors. Good lord. But they would say to me, "Oh, what are you complaining about? You're not getting hit with a horsewhip." And they were serious, and I'm like, a fucking horsewhip? What would merit for a child to get beaten by a fucking horsewhip like a slave? You know what I'm saying? And so I think I actually, because I grew up with my father was an alcoholic, and he was a very violent man. And if he wasn't violent physically, he was violent verbally. But I love him. He's my best friend. He's the reason I write poetry. So it's that kind of relationship. But damn, I took some of those bad habits, like you say, if the kid didn't do what you wanted, and go into like automatic yelling, and it's taken a while for me to be like, you know what, you gotta chill the fuck out, because that also is not cool.
Right.
And anytime I stumble, like, I talk to my kids and I apologize, and we talk about better approaches, to that. Because part of the problem too, I think, is that our parents would come home from exploitation and fucking racism and all this and bring it home because they had no way of processing. And that's not making excuses for them, but for my family, that was a reality. You know what I mean? Dad would come home tired from working in the fields and angry, and he would take it out. First, he would take it out on our mom, and then he would take it out on all of us. So anyway, let's do something more positive. You have a poem? So let's talk about our poetry. We both, I think, are similar in how we write. Not how we write, but we don't rhyme. I'm not usually. We freestyle, free verse. So, do you want to read a piece for us?
Yeah, sure. I have a
That was a
piece
terrible
here.
transition, by the way. Gonna have to work on that.
No, it's okay. I have a piece here. It's untitled. It was something that I wrote not too long ago. It was right around the time that our president, 45, I call him the Orange Dude.
Yeah, I don't even call him the president.
It was right exactly. It was right around the time that 45 decided to use the word lynch to describe his current political situation, despite his own doing. And the misuse of the word kind of struck me, as it did a lot of the American people. And I decided to write about what lynching actually means and what it means for Black folks, and also speaking to that generational trauma as well.
Nice.
So here it is. I heard screams muffled by insidious laughter. I saw children carrying on tradition. I heard voices below telephone poles. I saw remains charred beyond recognition. I heard the crackle of scorching bones. I saw teeth shoved in pockets as souvenirs. I heard limbs severed from the body. I saw tears streaming down dark faces. I heard them. I saw them. I may have been one.
Damn, Daniel, that is beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautifully done.
thank you.
I love the imagery. I love the wording. That's amazing. That
Yeah,
really is. That's one of your best ones that I've heard so far.
thank you. Thank
You
you.
should be awfully proud of that piece.
Yeah, when I
So I'm
wrote it, I was like, wow, this is actually surprisingly polished. Most of my stuff is when
it
I've,
happens like that sometimes.
yeah.
So let me read you one. Okay, so let me just foreground a few things about this anthology of poetry. This is my pinnacle. Like I if I can make it in here, I have some talent. I mean, I'm seriously. This is volume 6, A World Without Wars of Overthrowing Capitalism by the Revolutionary Poets Brigade, which we are both members of, I believe, right? And it was edited.
I'm an affiliate, but soon I shall be a part of it.
Witness. So I'm a member of the Chicago Revolutionary Poets Brigade, and that's what the anthology is open to.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to tell you that I'm a bit of a poetry snob, not to sound like a total biatch, but
Mm.
it is really rare that I find an anthology of poetry where I love every single poem. They're so well written. And Jack Hirschman, International Poet Laureate, who's my comrade, and Karen Melander and John Curl. I don't know these other two members, but Jack Hirschman speaks about 6 languages or more fluently. He Russian, Spanish, just beautifully. And he's one of my favorite translators. He's done the best translations of one of my favorite poets, Roque Dalton, and has done beautiful translations of Pablo Neruda and others. So, but this piece, my goodness, he paid in copy. There's only the printed version. It's published by Catalunga Press, and I would recommend any of these volumes. Just beautifully done. And Agneta Falk, his wife, Agneta or Aggie, she I believe did the cover, and it's a cover of an African woman behind a fence. So it's just beautifully done. Um, and so let me read the description is, if that's okay. Do you mind?
Mm-hmm.
It says, we must become a nation and a world motivated to end perpetual violence and the wars that ensue as a result of capitalist economy built on the greed that feeds it. We must become a nation and a world motivated to serve and sustain its people. We hope the poetry you read here will help inspire us all to work towards this goal. In order to achieve equal rights, we must remove our nation and all the peoples of the world from the constraints and oppression imposed by a capitalist system. We must also defend personal, economic, intellectual, and legal rights for all nations and all peoples, including those who seek asylum in our country. And it goes on, but it's beautiful. So I wrote this piece 2 years ago when the hurricane hit Puerto Rico, and 45 wasn't sending help. And when help went, there was this bullshit international law that prevented the boats from going to the island. And right now, Puerto Rico is experiencing extreme poverty. And so I wrote this poem. I was also invited by a colleague, Marcy Henry, who was also an amazing Chicago poet. And it was for 100 Poets for Change. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked all day on this poem, like a prayer all day. And I was able to refine it. I was able to perform it really well. Like, I talk kind of fast, so I polished it. And so I was really happy with the results. And I was looking forward to see what Jack and the editors would do with the piece. And it just looks beautiful. The layout looks good. The line breaks look good. So mine's a little bit long. It's also one of the longest poems I've ever written, and I don't think any publication would take it. And irony, it's in volume 6 of this amazing book. I know, right?
Volume 5 was just,
That's the one I teach in my creative writing class. My students love it. But the funny thing is, when I got the notice that I was gonna be published, like I've been experiencing depression, as you know, a part of that's genetic, you know, and I thought I would beat it by some intellectual miracle, which I haven't, and so I actually had to go get help, and taking care of myself has been a struggle. But when I got this bit of news, let me tell you what, the clouds parted, the sun was shining. I was like, fuck yeah, bros. So it's called True Faith in Unity. And I haven't practiced this, so you're gonna have to forgive the marbles. Blah, blah. People say those in power will always eat a gluttonous feast of misery and profit. The poor will always get poorer. They will be with us in the shanties of San Luis Rio Colorado, Sonora, where India sell Harshman chicles and Spider-Man keychains to American tourists. In Gaslight District of San Diego Califas, bleeding cardboard casitas and moldy sleeping bags of shame flapped in the dry wind. Street after street after street. Under Chicago's viaducts, drivers sometimes share a look of meaningful sadness between texts, maybe throw pocket change a single mother and prisoner toddler intent home. The rich will forever gorge on the profits of that Puritan zeal, anointed by years of colonization, slavery, repression, racism, misogyny. For money, tú bien sabes, y toda mi pobre gente que se chinguen. Let me just do a quick translation. It says, you know, this is a Puerto Rican saying, tú bien sabes, like, you know. My poor people, let them get fucked, right? That's chinguen. Dreamers, que se chinguen. In fact, fascists already rounding up criminals, forever nationally tattooed gangueros. Unions preaching that loving proletarian arm in arm solidarity forever, que se chinguen. Y Texas, Florida, Mexico, Puerto Rico, devastated, starving, Commonwealth-like colony, like a tourist hacienda. You asking for some sustenance? ¿Quieres pan? ¿Tú necesitas agua, some aquafina in crystalline bottles? ¿Te hace falta la luz for hospitals para vivir? Pues amen. I look to my children who fill me with so much esperanza, and I wonder at their celestial dreams. Siempre soñando. 7-year-old son prays every day. This is true. My son still praises every day. Dear God, please make Trump a better man. My heart laughs amazed at his faith. My 2-year-old hijita, so sweet, powerfully determined, prays for her friends, the scared, those zoo animals, las zebras, her light up shoes. She knows nothing of Twitter terrorist threats, fake nuclear news against Iran, North Korea, China, against you. Pues está bien. Let's pray for our ruler enemies. Let's also pray for what could be, that unity, for the abundance that is now, the technological splendor that is now, will be shared gratis y sin vergüenza, unbridled and free, for all to have. And my children, and your children, and we won't have to pray for their scraps anymore. That's it. Long, right? It's a little long.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I love the use of Spanish as well.
Well, that's bordered. I mean, there's Spanish and Spanglish, and Spanglish is a fusion of Spanish and English. So I try to use both, you know, the Spanish and the Spanglish. Nobody's complained so far that it's heavy on the Spanish, but basically, I think you can glean the meaning of the poem without having to translate. You know, I don't like to do double translations because I'm bilingual, and I feel like if you translate the Spanish and the English right after it, I'm like double reading it. You know,
unless I want right.
to point.
La luz that's light, right?
La luz, and then on some parts of the island still don't have electricity. Schools.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought you were referring to. Spanglish helps me because I understand some Spanish. So when someone's speaking completely in Spanish, I really can't pick it up. It's like someone that doesn't know English and hear us talk, they think that we speak too fast. I try to tell.
Oh, I know. Let me tell you what I know. I talk fast. It's one of my as a poet is was one of the points of consternation because I think very fast and I write very fast.
Hmm.
And it's great, but other people are like, "What? You so come slow down." I just say for the record that I worship the ground that Steve Carr walks on, and I love all his work. So he put this piece out. It's called "The Very Best of Steve Carr: 50 Short Stories." But one of the cool things he did is that he had authors react to the story so they could get some, exposure. And I was like, "What?" My reaction was first, Daniel. So I feel totally special because I'm first. But the funny thing is that everybody had like the author last name, um, Jack Jones, author. Mine says Maria J. Estrada, comma. So mentally, I just inserted book slut after that because okay to laugh because it doesn't say anything. But he wrote back to me because I was like, come on now. He said to me like Native Americans believe that every necklace should have an imperfection. So one of the beads is imperfect. So I'm the imperfect bead. But I'm gonna read you just a little bit of my reaction piece. Actually, I'm just gonna read the whole thing. Um, and when I read it, I was like, damn, I wrote this. I'm a little bit smart. Hells to the yes. So I love all of Steve's work. I don't just worship the ground he walks on. I do believe he has well over 350 published stories. He started dabbling in poetry, the bastard, and he just recently put out his debut novel called Redbird, which I also downloaded. But I'm reviewing Carmen's Cuentos del Cañón. So okay, so the story that I had the pleasure of being uh, that I had the pleasure of reacting to, which is featured again, just saying, featured number one. The Oasis reminded me of a fantastic Twilight Zone episode, and I loved it. The storyline was just as accomplished. The reader is gripped as Carl comes into November Falls, a seemingly utopic town, and begins to witness odd behavior in the elderly residents. The reader is hooked by a sequence of events that lead to a satisfying twist ending. When I first read it, I thought the town was a metaphor for a dying American way of life, but that interpretation could take many roads. I was moved to nostalgia by the quintessential scenes and interactions of the residents. Simple, beautiful. The twist ending was also masterful and left me with just enough closure and imagination left over. So there's different writers who've done little blurbs like this at the end of the stories, and it's amazing. I mean, his breadth of writing is great. Like the only thing I think he doesn't write is romance and smut. Respect, because I don't do that either. I mean, I would if we were on the streets. Shit, yeah, I'd have some cousin on cousin romances,
Right.
Yes, I would. Anyway, so hey, thanks so much for being amazing. I hope we do this again regularly. I hope we do this live, yo. I'm getting a set of headphones from my guest, and we're doing the concept of the banner for the YouTube channel, and I think it's gonna be wonderful. Also, if you're interested, Penned in the City, creative writing group for all, which both of us are members of. We're both administrators. We're always looking for new writers emerging. We're looking for readers, for artists. Like I'm excited because one of the local artists that I hope gets in a group, he's a t-shirt designer. He's gonna come on the YouTube channel. What? Yeah.
Nice.
Hell to the yes. I bought a couple of things from him too, but don't tell Aaron because one of them's a Christmas gift. So Penned in the City on Facebook, and I also invite you to join the Testaments and other great books. We are going to be reviewing Adrian J. Walker's The Survival Club at the End of the World, and I'm giving away 4 Kindle copies. Get on it, brother. Oh shit, I think the deal's out. I'll still get you a copy. The book is post-apocalyptic, and it's told from the point of view of an anti-hero, and that's why I chose it because it's so well done, beautifully done. And I also worship the ground that Adrian J. Walker walks on. What? Anyway, you got any other parting comments? Anything else?
No, thank you for having me. Writing is awesome. Writing is great, and hopefully we can get some more people into our group and take care of yourselves out there, people. Take care.
That's right. I love it. Take care. And my outro is always well, I've added to it. Do what you love and write on. Want to do it together? Right on. So
Right
our
on.
ITE. Thanks, man. Hope to have you soon.
Thank you.